Today's lesson is Lord, a Beautiful Voice. Hello, everybody. My name is Roger.
And my name is Helen.
And today we're going to continue talking about Lorde, who again is a famous singer-songwriter from New Zealand. And last time we talked about her first album and her second album. And we also talked about a little bit about how she got started. She won a singing contest. She was in a duet, and she was offered a recording contract when she was very young. And the rest is history.
Yep, and she also worked on the soundtrack of 2 films, the Hunger Games movie series, and she was also nominated, or actually I should say her album Melodrama was nominated for Album of the Year at the Grammys.
Indeed, so she's been quite successful, and we'll talk about the fact that she's more than just a singer-songwriter. She's involved in various causes, and we'll talk about those in today's program. So let's find out what some of those are. Let's listen to the first part of our lesson, and then we'll come back to talk about it.
Lorde has also been highly vocal about environmental and social issues.In 2019, she made a trip to Antarctica to learn about the effects of climate change. She then published a book of photographs documenting her trip and wrote an essay in which she describes her experience, urging her readers to help protect the planet.
大家好，第一部分我们看到名词 Antarctica 指南极，像是Traveling to Antarctica in order to get better understanding of penguins is his biggest goal in his life. 他人生最大的目标是去南极旅行，以进一步了解企鹅。或是 One of the traits of Antarctica is polar day, which means daytime lasts for more than 24 hours. 南极的一大特色是永昼，也就是24个小时都是白天。另外补充一个相关单字 Pole。P-O-L-E, pole 表示极地。例如 There is no land at the North Pole, but there is a lot of land at the South Pole. 北极没有陆地，但是南极有很大一片土地。或者 The aurora can be seen in not only the North Pole, but also the South Pole. 在北极跟南极都可以看到极光。接着我们看到单字 document， 这个字是动词，指记录或是记载。例如 The inspectors documented several safety violations at the factory. 稽查员在该工厂记录好几处安全违规。或是 Health officials documented several new cases of the mysterious disease. 保健官员记载了好几个这种怪病的案例。再补充一个相关单字 documentary. D-O-C-U-M-E-N-T-A-R-Y, documentary. 这个字是名词，指纪录片。举例来说 I watched a documentary about the people who discovered the Titanic on the seafloor. 我看了一部关于人们在海床上找到铁达尼号的纪录片。也可以说 We watched a documentary about the final days of World War II. 我们看了第二次世界大战最后一天的纪录片。
So let's look at some of the things that Lorde has been doing outside of music. It says here, Lorde has also been highly vocal about environmental and social issues. So when you are highly vocal about something, it means that you often express your opinions about that thing. You tell people what you think, or you might give advice about resolving a certain problem. And Lorde has been vocal, has expressed a lot of opinions about environmental social issues or problems related to the natural environment and to society.
Okay, so let's talk about some examples of these. In 2019, just a couple of years ago, she made a trip to Antarctica to learn about the effects of climate change. That's pretty good because she's from New Zealand, and New Zealand is closer to Antarctica than a lot of other countries. So she went down there. That's the continent at the bottom of the world. It's the continent where the South Pole is. That's Antarctica. And she went down there to learn about the effects of climate change. Every once in a while, we hear about changes in Antarctica. We hear about these big pieces of ice that keep breaking off from the ice shelves there, which of course means that the world is warming up and things like that. So of course she went down there to see this for herself. Climate change is sometimes referred to as global warming, but now we use the word climate change mostly. It refers to the fact that the temperature is getting warmer around the world, and this is changing the weather and causing droughts and big fires and nasty things like that.
Yep, so she made a trip to Antarctica. She then published a book of photographs documenting her trip and wrote an essay in which she describes her experience, urging her readers to help protect the planet. So after she went on this trip to Antarctica, she published a book, and this book contained photographs documenting her trip. So to document means to record in writing past experiences or information, things that you have found out. I could say, for instance, the scientist wrote a paper documenting the causes of global warming. In this case, Lord came out with a book of photographs documenting her trip, all the things that she saw, that she experienced on her trip. And she also wrote an essay in which she describes her experience. So she talks about what she saw and what she experienced, what she went through on this trip. And as a result of this, she decided to urge her readers to help protect the planet. So having seen the situation in Antarctica, perhaps she came across big pieces of ice broken into smaller pieces because of warmer weather, because of rises in temperature. She wanted to urge her readers to do something to protect the planet. When you urge someone to do something, you are strongly advising them to do that thing. If I had a friend who was sick, who wasn't in good shape, I might urge them to see a doctor about their condition before their condition got worse.
Okay, or perhaps I know someone who's very talented in art, so I urge that person to go see an art exhibition because I think if they see that, they will be encouraged to work harder on their art or something. So yeah, I urge you to go see that art exhibition. And here she's urging her readers to help protect the planet so that we won't all starve to death in the future. Okay, that brings us to the end of the first part of our lesson for today. Let's listen now to the next part.
A month after releasing her third studio album, Solar Power, last summer, Lorde came out with a companion EP titled Te Ao Marama, which features 5 songs from Solar Power recorded in Maori, the language of the indigenous people of New Zealand. With the EP, Lorde wanted not only to celebrate Maori for the occasion of Maori Language Week, but also to promote the ancient culture of the Maori, which has become increasingly diluted by modernity. In making an album about where I'm from, Lorde wrote in a statement to her fans, "It was important to me to be able to say, this makes us who we are down here."
再来第二部分，我们看到动词 dilute， 指使削弱、衰弱跟使稀释。我们可以说 An influx of new employees diluted Dan's talented team. 新员工的涌入使 Dan 能干的团队衰弱了。或是 The cleaning fluid is concentrated and should be diluted before use. 这是浓缩的清洁剂，在使用前应该先稀释。最后我们看到单字 modernity， 这个字是名词，指现代性或是现代状态。举例来说London is a city that integrates history and modernity. 伦敦是一个结合历史及现代的城市。或者 Some people in the city believe modernity will threaten their culture. 城市里的有些人认为现代性会威胁到他们的文化。另外补充这个字的形容词 modern, M-O-D-E-R-N, modern, 指现代化的或是时尚的，像是 Everything in that hospital is new and modern. 那间医院的各个设备既新颖又现代化。
So afterwards, after Lorde went on this trip to Antarctica, she came out with a third album, and she came out with this album last year. A month after releasing her third studio album, which is called Solar Power, last summer, Lorde came out with a companion EP titled Te Ao Marama, which features 5 songs from Solar Power re-recorded in Maori, the language of the indigenous people of New Zealand. So remember that Lorde comes from New Zealand, and New Zealand is also the home of the Maori, who are the indigenous people of New Zealand. Indigenous here refers to people who lived in a place for a long time, much longer than people who came later on. So if we want to use the United States as an example, we could say that the indigenous people of the United States, of America and Canada, are the Native Americans. And here, the indigenous people of New Zealand are the Maori. So Lorde came out with a third album titled Solar Power last summer. To come out with means to produce or to launch. And after she came out with this album, she also produced a companion EP titled Te Ao Marama.
And with the EP, Lorde wanted not only to celebrate Maori for the occasion of Maori Language Week, but also to promote the ancient culture of the Maori, which has become increasingly diluted by modernity. So indeed, she had a reason for singing in Maori here. Of course, she did this to celebrate Maori Language Week. Okay, that's some kind of holiday in New Zealand in which they try to recognize the Maori language and let people there be aware of its existence and what it sounds like and what a great language it is. But she also wanted to promote their ancient culture because they've been there for a long time. But, well, they're changing. They're a minority there. And, of course, we've got modernity with the internet and globalization and stuff like that. So all those things are diluting their culture. They're getting weaker in their culture, and eventually the culture may disappear as they become assimilated into the larger culture.
Yes, so Lorde decided to try to improve this situation to make more people aware of Maori language and the culture of the indigenous people of New Zealand by coming out with this companion EP, a companion to her third studio album, Solar Power. So here, companion is used in a very interesting way because we usually think of companion as somebody who is your friend or family member who sticks by you, when you need help or when you need someone to go with you somewhere, to a party or to the movies. So somebody that's close to you is your companion. But here, companion describes something that is related to something else because they share the same theme or they may be used together. So another example of this use of companion could be, let's say you put out a series of videos on cooking on YouTube and you have a lot of viewers, and in order to make more money, you decided to put out a companion recipe book. So all of the recipes in this book are the recipes that you illustrated in the videos. So in this sense, the recipe book is a companion to your YouTube videos.
Yep, something that goes along with the original. It helps you appreciate it more. So yes, indeed, she released that album, Solar Power. And this was a companion EP. It kind of goes along with it. You can have them together here. And that companion EP celebrates Maori culture. It was released on the occasion of the Maori Language Week. And so hopefully more people will be aware of their culture and they'll be around for a long time. Now, in making an album about where I'm from, this is what she said. Lorde wrote in a statement to her fans, "It was important to me to be able to say, this makes us who we are down here," which I believe is referring to down under, which is a term we use to refer to Australia and New Zealand there. So again, she wants to make the world know about them and know what they're all about. So indeed, it's about where she's from, which is New Zealand. And thanks to her, I myself know more about the Kiwis.
Right. So thanks to Lorde and her being vocal about many social issues, environmental issues, I think a lot of people have a broader understanding, especially people her age who listen to her music now have a broader understanding of a lot of issues in the world. For instance, many countries, even though they may seem to have a European origin, actually that is a very short version of the history of that place. There's a longer version with different people, and it just takes some time to study and to look into situations in more detail.
Okay, that brings us to the end of the second part of our lesson for today. It's time to move on to the third and final part.
In less than a decade since her rise to fame, Lorde has matured musically and become an influential voice. She has, without a doubt, earned a royal spot among her pop star peers.
So we've looked at a lot of Lorde's accomplishments, from her musical output, her albums, to some of the social and political, environmental stuff that she has done. And it's easy to forget that it's only been a decade since she became famous. And she has accomplished a lot in a short amount of time. So in less than a decade since her rise to fame, Lorde has matured musically and become an influential voice. So not only has she become a mature musician, which means that she has become a lot more skilled at writing songs and singing, she has also become an influential voice. A voice that is influential is one that has the power to influence people or to change the way people think about certain things.
So she has influence here. Of course, people listen to her because she's famous. Not only because she's famous, but she does write her own songs. She is a singer-songwriter, and she's active in various social causes. I guess she wants people to be aware of climate change. She probably wants to promote solar power and wind power and stuff like that, which are considered renewable sources of energy. And so she's probably against, using coal and petroleum and stuff like that to generate power. And she wants the world to be a better place for all of us.
Yes, and there is a general trend towards environmental protection amongst young people, and you can see this in social media also. A lot of social media stars promote environmental protection and living simply and perhaps adopting a vegan diet because of the fact that animal agriculture is a big contributor to climate change. And in these cases, the social media stars are influencers. They're called influencers because they have the power to influence the way people behave and the way people think.
So she has, without a doubt, earned a royal spot among her pop star peers. An interesting way to phrase that, a royal spot here. Remember, of course, her first breakout song was called Royals. But if you're talking about peers, you're talking about people of the same age or of the same social position as you. So yes, indeed, she's earned a royal spot with other famous people. She's probably just as famous as Billie Eilish is right now.
Yep. And since there are a lot of people her age who are also pop stars, and those people are her peers because they are of the same age and they are perhaps of the same social group, social level, she has a royal spot. She has earned this royal spot amongst her peers because of all of the things that she has done. So without naming any names, perhaps other stars have focused mainly on music, or maybe they're very interested in fashion and they don't really have a wide orientation towards social issues. That's not the case with Lorde. She is very vocal about these issues and trying to find ways to solve them.
Indeed. So we're happy to have been able to discuss her in the last couple of days. It's time now to end our discussion by listening to our Chinese teacher.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。课文第二部分提到 Lorde 把第三张录音室专辑里的5首歌重新用毛利语录制，然后推出了迷你专辑。而借由这张迷你专辑，他不只想用来庆祝毛利语周这个活动，也想提倡已经逐渐被现代化削弱的毛利人古老文化了。好，文中他是用到 not only to celebrate 点点点 but also to promote 点点点来表达。那么 not only 点点点 but also 点点点是表达不止怎么样也怎么样，不仅怎么样还怎么样，它是配对连接词，必须用来连接两个词性相同的字词。像课文里面就是连接了两个不定词片语 to celebrate 和 to promote 点点点。好，举例来说，In Taiwan, hot pot is popular not only in winter, but also in every season. 在台湾啊，火锅不止在冬天受欢迎，在每个季节都很受欢迎。这边我们就是用 not only, but also 去连接两个介系词片语咯。那读到课文第3部分第一句，自从成名之后不到10年的时间 Lord 在音乐上成熟了不少，而且变成一个具有影响力的发言人。文中是用到 influential 来形容是有影响力的，而这个字是来自 influence。我们来学习它的字首字根。好，看到 flu flu， 同学们也许会想到流感。flu 当单字的时候，它就是 influenza 的缩写，来表达流行性感冒。不过 flu 当字根则是有 flow 流动的意思，在某些单字里面它可能会拼作 fluc 或是 fluv 或者是 flux 等等。那么在 influence 这个字当中，它的字首 in 表示进入， flu 表示流动，那么后面的 ence 是名词字尾。好，那流动进入这样是什么意思呢？同学们试着想想看，当工厂把这个有色废水排进河流，河流的颜色是不是就慢慢受到影响变色呢？我们也许可以用这样的画面去联想到 influence 它有影响的意思。那顺便补充几个相同字根的单字，第一个是 fluent F-L-U-E-N-T， 那它的字根 F-L-U 表示流动， E-N-T 是形容词字尾，合在一起 fluent 就表示流利的流畅的。那把字尾 E-N-T 改成名词字尾 E-N-C-Y 就会得到名词 fluency， 就表示流畅或是流利度。第二个补充的是 affluent A-F-F-L-U-E-N-T， 好，它的字首 A-F 是来自 A-D 表示朝向，只是因为 A-D 碰到 F 才会拼成 A-F。 那么字根 F-L-U 表示流动，后面再加上 E-N-T 是形容词字尾，朝向跟流动可以怎么联想呢？当所有财富都往你那边流过去，朝你那边流过去，你是不是就很有钱了呢？所以 affluent 这个形容词就是富裕的，就跟 rich 或是 wealthy 差不多。好，第三个补充的是 confluence C-O-N-F-L-U-E-N-C-E， 那它的字首 C-O-N 表示一起， F-L-U 表示流动， E-N-C-E 是名词字尾，一起流动。好，我们想象说一起流动到某个地方，那就表示那个地方是个汇流处，所以 confluence 这个字可以表达河流汇合的地方。好，那么以上是今天重点整理，我们回顾今天的单字吧。
Document.The photographer traveled to the U.S. to document the struggles of refugees. Urge. The leader of the movement urged his followers not to use violence. Companion. To make the most of the video game, download its companion app. Indigenous. The government is trying to promote indigenous languages. Influential. The politician was seen meeting with some influential businessmen. Peer.Many of Robin's peers took a year off after high school to travel abroad.
Discussion Starter starts now!
Okay, here is our discussion starter for today. And the question is, what do you think Lord's accomplishments or actions reveal about her values? Why?
Well, the article mentions that Lord went to Antarctica to find out more about the environment. So I think she is probably not very materialistic. She doesn't care so much about money and fashion and, looking good, but she has other concerns that are related to the globe.
Yeah, well, Lord obviously is concerned about global issues. For one thing, of course, she supports solar power. I guess that's the title of one of her albums. And of course, she wants to promote indigenous culture. But that kind of tells me that people from New Zealand are like that anyway. It seems like all the Kiwis I've heard about always seem to be very active in environmental issues and things like that. So good on her. Well, everyone, today's article has come to an end, and I sure hope you enjoyed reading along with us. I am Roger.
I'm Helen.
See you next time.